This podcast is sponsored by Teens and Youth in Leadership, TYIL Africa, an organization that is committed to raising generations of young leaders across Africa. Our programs include leadership education, leadership fellowship, research training, webinars, and conferences. Stay informed of our programs by following us on LinkedIn at TYIL and at TYIL Africa on Instagram.
Hello, you're welcome to the Future of Leadership podcast, where we discuss about issues related to leadership and, in fact, youth leadership. My name is Israel Oyedare, and I'm the host of this podcast. I'm also the founder of Teens and Youth in Leadership, popularly known as TYIL, an organization focused on youth leadership development. Through this podcast, you will learn from seasoned professionals and leadership scholars on their thoughts and perspectives on youth leadership. Stay tuned. I have with me an international development expert, Dr. Sombo Muzata. Dr. Muzata is an experienced specialist with a demonstrated history of working in the non-profit organization management industry. Skilled in non-profit organizations, sustainable development, corporate social responsibility, business planning, and analytical skills. She currently serves as an assistant professor at James Madison University, USA. I'm so excited to have you on this podcast today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to come and speak with you.
Yeah, so I need to tell you, before this session, I went through your profile on LinkedIn, and I must say you're truly inspiring and you're a lot.
Glad to hear that.
So could you please share what inspired you in your career choice and leadership journey?
Yeah, I think always what inspires me is to be different. To be different and to not be the same, which is basically the same thing. To be different is to not go with the flock, to set yourself apart, to follow your dreams and your aspirations, and to not be the same with who? Okay, to not be the same as I was yesterday and not to be the same as everybody else around me. Because I believe that if I am the same as I was yesterday, then I'm not living to my true values. I believe that as human beings, we have the ability to reinvent ourselves multiple times. And I think that's a very important piece that each one has to work on. But other than reinventing myself several times, I wouldn't want to be the same as everybody around me because it would mean I'm living a counterfeit life. If you try and copy and be like other people, you're not living true to yourself. So for me, what inspires me all the time is to just be different, to follow my dreams, my goals, my passion, and to make a difference, be different and make a difference. I think that's the greatest inspiration. Also, I think my parents inspired me at a young age to work hard. Most of the things, you don't acquire them when you're old. It's either you got it when you were young, or if you get a little older, you have to work extra hard. So I think my parents inspired in me a culture of hard work and also believing in myself. And I think those are very, very important gifts that I received from my parents.
Well, thank you so much for talking about a little bit about your youth and your teenage years. Could you tell us how growing up was like for you?
Oh, that's a very interesting one. So it was mostly three things. Of course, home, helping out in the home. We were taught to clean. I remember I wouldn't have to wake up after a certain time if I wanted to make sure that everything was cleaned before I went to school. We had designated chores at home. So if in that week your task is to clean the floor in the house, you'd have to make sure that you either clean the floor before you go to bed, or you wake up very early in the morning, clean the floor, and have enough time to go to get ready and go to school. So it was working at home, being part of the family. And then other than working at home, it was school. It was just school. So school in all its different forms. I loved going to the local library. We had a small little library in the city that I grew up in. I grew up in Zambia, in a town called Chipata. And Chipata had a small, I'm saying small because now it looks small relative to the libraries that I have seen. Yeah, so we had a little library there, which really did a great job in, kicking the fire and lighting me to love books and to read. So I used to go to the library a lot to read. And then I went to an all-girls high school. And there too, it was just books and books and books and spending a lot of time in the library and studying. So those two important pieces. But then the other very important piece is spiritual development and growth. Okay. I think a lot of parents back then spent a lot of time trying to guide and lead their children on the spiritual path. You train up a child in the way they should grow. When they're older, they are not going to depart from that. So I think that was a very important piece of my upbringing. I went to church a lot, way too much church. Yeah, it continues to help and serve me. Sometimes things don't go the way you want them to go in life, but just having the grounding and the assurance of faith is something that I'm so appreciative of. And it's one of the 3 things that I did when I was growing up.
That's very impressive. So we're going to maintain a conversation on the path of youth. I would like to ask you, how would you define leadership in the context of youth?
Leadership in the context of youth. So I have said elsewhere, and this is my belief, that each parent raises a leader, knowing or unknowingly. So I don't look at young people and think that this can be a leader or that one cannot be a leader. I believe that we all have the potential to be leaders because each one of us is basically a leader of our own life. Okay. So when we want to look at leadership and try to give a definition based off an institutional understanding or a role in society, we would be thinking about taking up, a responsibility that fits one's aspirations and goals or that serves in a particular community. But youth leadership, in my own short definition, is personal leadership, because every young person is a leader first of their lives. You cannot claim to want to be a leader of a society, of an association, an organization, or a youth political movement if you're not a leader of your own life.
Thank you. So it's in the teenage years that we should actually prioritize personal leadership. How do you think that youth of this age perceive leadership as opportunities to lead in the family? For me, I was the firstborn, so I had so many of those opportunities. My younger ones were like my test, my followership tests. So, how do you think the youth of this age should actually perceive leadership as?
Great. So are you the firstborn in your family?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, that's a blessing of being the first child. You are the leader.
Yeah.
The others are leaders by default because they have to lead their own lives. But if you're the firstborn child, then everybody looks to you and, the expectations are great, high actually. And that was my path. Okay. So in terms of how the young people now perceive leadership, I think it's a mix and it depends on a lot of factors. There's a lot of factors that are contributing to young people not wanting to take up leadership. First, personal leadership, and second, leading the world. Okay. Personal leadership, there's a lot of issues going on in people's lives. We're just coming out of a pandemic and family situations are different for a number of people. So you see all that plays into young people's well-being and mental health and their general outlook on life. And if a person's outlook on life is negative and they feel defeated, okay, or if a person's outlook is influenced by what they're seeing and messages that are coming across them every single time, if they're on social media and whatnot, I think young people are lacking the ability to sit and think, look within and see what they can give to the world and how they can make the world a better place. So I think that we have a number of challenges out there, and partly that's the reason why young people are not developing at a pace that they should be developing. But I said earlier that every home, every parent, whether they want to acknowledge or not acknowledge, they're raising a leader. And I think we have a responsibility as parents and as people in society to encourage and inspire the young people that have been given charge over us, to inspire them to become leaders, to encourage them to do small things, because the small things added together become the great things. Okay, so I think there's a lot that can be done for youth leadership, and there's a lot that young people can do to inspire leadership in themselves and in their communities. So I have teenage daughters, and I was very, very amused and encouraged by my older daughter, who's a senior. And she's actually coming to Virginia Tech.
Wow.
So I was very, very inspired and encouraged by, one of my teenage daughters who decided, when we were out in South Africa in 2023, we spent the whole summer of 2023 in Pretoria. I was doing my Carnegie African Diaspora Fellowship at the University of Pretoria. And whilst we were there, summer is long, okay? And my kid started saying, Mommy, I want to set up a club when I go back to school next year. And this is what I want to do this club to do. And I was like, okay, so this is a 17-year-old, okay, who wants to set up a club to make a difference. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, you're setting up a club, you're going to be a senior, you need to work hard. And she said, Mommy, it's fine, I'll be okay. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to continue working hard so that I can continue, maintaining my GPA to graduate with honors. So I'm going to continue working hard, and I'm going to set up a club. And we talk about what that club is going to do. And she says, I wanted to, inspire people to live, in harmony. Equity ambassadors, regardless of your racial identification, regardless of your faith. I would like to set up a branch of equity ambassadors at my school, because the school she had attended previously before we moved to this city, she used to be part of that club. So I'm thinking to myself, we're in South Africa, in Pretoria, I'm like, oh, this is summertime, and you can have dreams and you can have aspirations. Maybe when this is about to start, she's going to realize that this is a lot of work. As the summer continues, she goes like, I want to set up another club. So I'm going to set up 2 clubs. So I'm going to do the data science club because I love data science and robotics. And then I'm going to set up equity ambassadors club because I love, that we should be having a safe space where we can have all these conversations as people from different racial groups and backgrounds and religious backgrounds and beliefs, political beliefs. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, this is interesting. 2 clubs as a senior. So we come back to Harrisonburg and the process starts. And the kid worked so hard. She set up both clubs. The last activity that she did on one of the clubs was to organize a book drive. And with that book drive, the goal was, she had very modest goals. Get people in the school, in the high school, the local high school, to donate about 100 books. And from those 100 books, donate the 100 books now to a nonprofit organization that deals with refugees, refugee resettlement. Harrisonburg is a refugee resettlement city. So the book drive starts, I think you take a total of 2 weeks. And by the end of that 2 weeks, more than 500 books have been donated.
Wow.
More than 500 books have been donated by students and teachers in the high school. And those books are in turn passed on to CWS, Church World Service, a very large nonprofit that does amazing work in resettling refugees from Syria, North Africa, and all parts of the world. And I'm seated and I'm thinking to myself and seeing this, and I'm thinking to myself, this is remarkable. This just started as an idea. Okay, and see how this has grown. So why am I giving this example? I think as, parents and as members of the community, we have a responsibility to encourage and support the young people if they decide to take on a role of leadership. We shouldn't think at any time that this is not going to work out. Most of the times, I don't think of plan B. This is going to work out because you're going to give it your all. You're going to spend your energy on this. You're going to spend your time on this. So you're not going to back out. You'll start and you'll plan and you implement activities until you get to the end. So I think there are young people. I don't want to say, I wanted to make sure that I gave this example so that we can have a balanced outlook. Yes, we're coming from a pandemic and there's been all these challenges that have been there and people have been beaten by psychological and mental issues that are beyond their control. But we can see something beautiful happening within this space, and we can nurture that as parents, as guardians, to these youth and young people that are trying to take up leadership. So I think the youth are still doing a lot as leaders.
Yeah, I sincerely appreciate you sharing that story. It just goes to show how that it starts with a will, the desire to make a change. And it doesn't matter if it's on the large scale or the small scale. Leadership occurs when you just take that step to make life better. And I'm super proud of your daughter.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think this is because your story has addressed a lot of questions I had in mind. But I want to know, how do you think youth can take part or partake in global leadership? The world is experiencing global, I know this is post-pandemic, but there are a lot of issues that the world is actually exposed to right now. We have wars, we have climate issues. How do you think youth can actually participate in making sure that these global issues are resolved?
Yeah, there is a leadership crisis all across the world. And I think young people shouldn't put themselves on the sidelines and think that they can't do anything. They can make a difference. It can be very small, but that is very, very important because it's going to help somebody's life change. I think we can emphasize the structures and systems that are in place and get the young people to have a genuine interest in how those function and how they operate, and get the young people to aspire and desire to be in those positions. Okay, we can encourage young people to learn more about leadership in a formal structure. I think there's a lot of courses that are available online for free that they can take in leadership. It just needs commitment. And I like the way you said it, it needs a will. So can young people have the will to want to make a change, to want to make a difference? It starts with them. The larger institutions that are there are only going to give a small fraction of space to the young people. They will just let them step their toe inside and not even their whole foot. So change is only going to be created if the young people think that and act at a local level. If they act at a local level, if they can first lead yourself, if you're able to lead yourself, then go to your community, make a difference and impact in your community. Those little things that you're doing are adding up to the whole, to the global change that is needed. So we can do this in many different ways. We can emphasize individual leadership and leadership in the community level and building those skills to be able to take on leadership at the global stage. So yes, there are formal institutions that are in place, but they're not going to have the capacity to take everybody in. And we also know that some of the young people that have brilliant minds and they're able to actually get work done, they don't get opportunities to even get into these spaces, So it's a lot of factors at play, but what we should be doing is we should be inspiring and encouraging young people to first lead their lives and to be leaders in their own communities, because the collective impact of that is what changes the world.
Wow, interesting. Thank you very much. Thank you. We have really had a nice time learning from you today, and I really appreciate you again, Muzata, for agreeing to be on this podcast with me. But before you go, do you have any closing sentence to say to youth who are in leadership positions, those aspiring to be leaders, or even those who haven't yet discovered their leadership potential?
Yeah. So leadership is not easy. Personal leadership and leadership of communities and institutions is not an easy thing. It's sometimes it can be a lonely walk. I became a leader when I was very young. From the time I was at home, I was encouraged to do various little things, to practice my leadership. Um, so from that, I learned that I needed to have the confidence to lead. I needed to have the discipline to show up and to work hard. And I think that is what I've done every single day. Every single day, you have to be self-inspired, self-motivated to desire a leadership position. You have to be self-inspired and motivated to make a difference. So I think that young people have an opportunity for that. Other than doing a formalized training, find a place where you can volunteer, find a community where you can make a change, and just plunge yourself into that and learn. You don't know it all. Having an open mind and willingness to learn helps you to go further in your career or in your journey as a leader. So I think young people can do a lot of things. They can have the will, they can be self-inspired and motivated, they can learn from those around them, and they can step up and just offer themselves. So I think there's a lot that they can do. I'm smiling in my mind because I have a lot of thoughts going on right now. I've been teaching a course on leadership, and I called it Leading Through Change. Leading through change because I realized that leadership is a very complex topic on its own. It can be theoretical and practical. So I teach this course on leadership, and I've been teaching this course since 2021 in a business school, and I call it Leading Through Change. Why Leading Through Change? I think we become best leaders if we're exposed to lead in very difficult circumstances, and it's very easy to criticize. Extremely easy to criticize everything, to criticize the leaders, to criticize just about everything. But if you were put in that same position, what would you do? So in this course, I do the theory part, and then I also look at, what would it look like if you're the one who was in charge and you're the one who was leading in these circumstances? What would you do differently? And the goal is to get students to think as a leader in that moment, but then also to learn that maybe the solutions that were provided at that time were the best that were available. And their responsibility now as leaders in that space is to enhance what has already been done. So I love having those conversations with students in my Leading Through Change class. It's been an eye-opener, a learning experience for me as well. And yeah, so I think young people can do a lot to develop themselves to be leaders. It's one of the best gifts that you can give to the world if you can lead yourself, and you can lead your community, and you can lead the world.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the insightful session. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you inviting me to come here. And I wish all the young people that are listening to this, I wish you the best. You have what it takes to be a leader. You are a leader. You can do great.
Thank you for listening to the Future of Leadership podcast today. If you are here to kindly share, subscribe, leave a review, and follow us across our social media platforms, including Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, all at TYIL. See you in the next episode.